So there's plenty of videos out there on how to use Roll20, but what I really want to go into today is how to take your game to the next level, how to make it look more polished, professional, get your players more engaged. Maybe you've seen online there's these kind of professional looking games and playthroughs and campaigns, and you want to make your game look more like that. So how are we going to do it? And how are we going to do it for free, whether you're doing it just for your friends or you want to stream or record it? I'll get into all that. So the first bit of that is going to be your tokens. If you're in Roll20, I'm sure you're familiar with the free assets that you get. They're very well done. A lot of these characters, the monsters, all that kind of stuff, they're great. But I'm sure you want more. More variety is always better. So how do we get more? Well, the easiest way to do that is to go directly to the creators. So Devon Knight is the creator of most of these tokens. And if you go specifically to his website, and I'll link this and everything else in the description, he's got here in the shop the free token pack. So if you look, there's fantasy tokens, he's got sci-fi tokens, all kinds of stuff you can do. Bring them in, just import them, completely free. And I'll be honest, the Pathfinder tokens I think look even better than the existing tokens that he's got in Roll20 there, at least from a fantasy perspective. I haven't gotten into the sci-fi stuff, but I mean, if you're running a sci-fi game, why not? I'm sure they're very good. He's also got tons of stuff on Roll20 that is paid for, but this is what you're going to want to start with for free. So you got to do it all through his site. And then to note the usage of this. So if you're going to be streaming, you're going to be recording, he's totally good with it. He says, give him a shout out and, call him super hot and cool. And he is. He's awesome. I mean, definitely give him credit for the work that he does. If you do want to use it in commercial products, it gets a little bit more complicated. You can use some of them for free. You're going to have to start paying. But that kind of goes beyond the scope of this video. Now, something else you might end up doing is just going on a Google image search and searching for whatever tokens for whatever things you need. And I find you're usually going to need to do this for environmental things. So, do you need a pile of rocks? Do you need a particular tree, some sticks, whatever, that kind of stuff. Not too many tokens out there for that, but you might still want to represent them in your game. So one of the problems that you might have from a Google image search is that you grab the image, but it's got a white background, or it's got that transparent background to it. But when you bring it into Roll20 through an upload here, it still comes in with that white square. That transparent background is attached to the image. Now you can obviously get rid of that in programs like Photoshop. But for anyone who doesn't have those or just doesn't have the experience, there's just an easy online tool. Drag and drop your image into here, and then you can download it after. It'll get rid of that little box, and then you can use whatever images you find online in your games. Now, obviously, that's also not going to help too much with streaming and things like that. You're probably not going to have a license or permission to use a lot of those images. So this is more for the type of stuff you're just going to be doing with your friends for personal usage. But if you do a little bit more digging, you might find that there's some stuff that people are actually okay with you streaming or making paid content for. Now, after tokens, probably the next most important thing to look at is maps. And now there's two kinds of maps. There's world maps and there's battle maps, or these environmental maps. So first we're going to look at these environmental maps. Now on DeviantArt, you check out this Mad Cow Chef. The guy's name is actually Gabriel Pickard, I believe. You can look on Roll20 for lots of his other stuff, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. He puts lots of other things out there, but this is just a nice amalgamation of all of his stuff here on DeviantArt. You're going to want to go these free map tiles, and here's what they're going to look like. So now if we just open one of these up, what you're going to want to do is just right click, save image as in this terrible browser here, and then bring that into your game. Right, just go ahead here, upload it. You can end up with something like this, which you can then go ahead and blow up to something that will, fit your environment. And there you go. You've actually got this amazing image. Maybe with the layer, go ahead, push it to the map. That way you still get the grids. And you can have players run around on here. So why do I like these images so much, these maps? Well, there's a few reasons. One, they look really good. It's pretty obvious, I think, just through scanning this, they're really good. They hit lots of different environments. That's really cool. But one of the key things that you might notice from it is there's no grid overlay. Now, maybe you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, maybe you're playing some other game. I'm playing lots of Artifacts at the moment, and in Artifacts we're using hexagons, and these hexagons actually need to have multiple tokens within them as part of the game rules. And so I can overlay this kind of hex grid on top of the maps, and it works just fine for all my purposes. Now, if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, of course, you can go back to the standard grid, or you can play like a modified version with something else. But it's completely agnostic of the game system. Whereas I found if you look for lots of battle maps and environmental maps, they've got the grid built in, and you're kind of stuck with just that one, the square-based grid tiles, that kind of thing. Now, in lots of comments and things like that, he's mentioned that he's okay with people streaming this kind of stuff. Haven't seen anything for commercial use, so I'm going to assume that nobody's got the rights to something like that. But as well, I wanted to mention with tiles like this, they're not just tiles, they're very good for creating larger maps. So it's obvious to see with these kind of castle tiles here that he's got edges that line up with each other. So you can make this edge line up with this edge, or you can make it line up with any one of these other tiles, especially if you're rotating, moving them about. You can kind of create your own little custom dungeon. And it's really cool when you start getting into caves and things like that, because it's not so obvious. It's not this just, whatever size that is kind of walkway. It's actually these little bits that you can mesh with other pieces surprisingly well. Like this size will line up with all kinds of other things. Plus he's got, this kind of predetermined layout that you can build for a lot of these things. So just really, really great maps here. Tons of stuff, right? Tons of images. Take advantage of it. Really, really great stuff. Now on the world map side of things, there is this Asgard tool, and I can't say enough good things about this. This is just randomly coming to the page. It generates this for you. You can go here, alright, generate a new map, and boom, you get something completely different. It's got provinces, countries, it's got the ice, it's got, roadways. Like if you start to zoom in, it's got so much detail here. Do you want all that detail? Maybe you don't need it. You can see you can remove all of these sorts of things. You can really customize what actually comes out of this. You can make it completely white and then do a lot of your own editing in Photoshop or something like that. It's so customizable, so great. Use it for all kinds of things. You can make it 3D. You get biomes, height maps, like just ridiculous customization. You can save these maps, import them in, play with them on the site. This is getting constant updates as well. I've seen lots of very recent updates even from the developer. I think he just calls himself Asgard. And one of the coolest pieces about it is when it comes to licensing. So if you look up the documentation for this tool, there is lots of help about how to use it. But as well, it gets into licensing, and what there actually is yeah, of course it's okay to stream, of course it's okay to record, but it goes further than that the maps and any derivatives of the maps, meaning you can download and change the map as you see fit, can even be sold for commercial purposes. So just tons here that is really, really useful. Now, one more thing related to maps that I really want to get at is these images, these free icons. They work really great with maps. You can use them in other parts of your game, of course, but for example, if I want, a town or something like that, there's all these great things for a town or a mine or monsters or whatever. These indicators, you can download these images. These are all okay to use as well. Commercially too, it's really great. You just got to give a shout out to these guys. But dropping them on your map, it's going to make it look really, really good, kind of bring it to life even more than this tool already does. Now, beyond maps and icons and tokens and all that, you're going to want music, right? There's tons of music out there. What do you want to put into your game? Well, one source is I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce the guy's name, Feichters, but Derek and Brandon, they've got this amazing YouTube channel with tons and tons of stuff. They've said in numerous comments that, yeah, they're fine if you want to stream it or something like that. Just go ahead, give them a shout out. Make sure you say that that's where the music's from. But this music is so in-depth. The things that they title their songs after, it will be as specific as, fire elemental or a mystical cave or something like that. If you need any kind of music to fit the atmosphere, to fit the combat, anything, there's tons and tons of stuff here. Another good source is this tabletop audio page. Now, I don't personally use it, but I know lots of streamers who do. If we go and we look at the licensing, they're fine with podcast videos, that kind of stuff. If it's not for money, if it is going to be monetized, they basically just say use some common sense. If you're making a few bucks, who really cares? Just kind of give me a shout out. But as soon as you start raking in the cash, maybe we want to come to some sort of agreement. But I know that there's lots and lots that are used here. Now, something else I want to point out with the music, you have the option in Roll20 of the jukebox. Now, you can upload audio to here, you can play your tracks through here, but I'm going to recommend against it for one specific reason, and that is that it's going to take up a lot of your space, especially if you have a free account. I mean, this video is all about saving money, having free assets. If you've got a free account, you can have 100 megabytes of storage. Music is going to take up a ton of that. You want room for these maps and for tokens and other kinds of assets you're going to find. You don't want to waste it for music, especially because that music is stored elsewhere. So how do I recommend you play your music? Well, if you're using Discord, this Rythym Bot is a great way to do it. Of course, you can play it through any other means. There's tons of ways to do it, but you can add this bot to your Discord channel. It's free, and you can manage all your music through there for all your players. So there's kind of two ways to do it. There's commands where what we'll often do is we can we'll create a channel, like a Rythym Bot channel, where people, like anyone, has access to the channel, and they can write commands, they can change the song, they can skip it, whatever. And that's kind of a more collaborative way to let everyone do it. But you also kind of have to manage in your head, what does the queue look like? Where do I want to skip to, seek to, anything like that. But if you're logged in, it'll give you an option here where you can actually go to something that looks more like this, an actual UI to work with. So you can play, you can skip, you can loop, you can do all those things through here. Build your queue, whether it's like battle music, adventure music, whatever. It's a little bit easier to manage through that, but both options work. Now, there's one other source of music that I will recommend, especially to streamers, but it's a little more of a gray area as far as licensing and things like that goes, and that's video game music. So this is probably a no-brainer, one, for the fact that lots of us who are playing these online RPGs, well, we're familiar with video games and a lot of the things that have come from Dungeons and Dragons, right? Been inspired by tabletop games. Well, that music is, sure, it's good, but it's also not going to be picked up on by any sort of automated copyright system. So if you're on YouTube or if you're on Twitch and there's some kind of algorithm that's running in the background on videos and streams, Well, it's not going to pick up on video game audio. That's why you have Let's Plays, and that's why people are able to stream games, because that audio is kind of separate from everything else that's licensed. Now, you don't actually have a license to play the music, which is why I say it's a gray area. There's, all kinds of opinions on this, but I do want to mention it for people who might be interested in using it. Easy to use, really great stuff. At least in your personal games, I really, really recommend it. Grab some Baldur's Gate music or something. You're going to have stuff that's specific for battle and adventure and towns and all kinds of things that you're actually going to be doing in game. But if you're streaming, if you're recording, that's an option. So I think that's everything that you're going to need to really get started. Tools that you can use for free that I highly recommend everyone use. If you do have any other recommendations, it's actually one of the few times it would be great to comment on a thing like that. I'd love to see comments, other people throwing stuff out there. If you want to take things further, I think almost all of these, either you're going to be able to get more assets on Roll20 or a Patreon or something like that, right? You can support these projects. You can do that as well. They are people who are making really, really great content in a space that we all love. So, of course, supporting them is just a really nice thing to do. But that's it from me. Thanks for watching.